from any of your classmates?
How's it, Doc? I heard that Kate said that she would upload, but she wasn't going to be in the lecture today. And Cameron
Mm,
said that he finishes now. He just needs to put the references in.
okay, and then he's gonna upload. I
Yes,
think
and then I'm
it's
sure he'll come in.
yeah, it's quite meaningful if we can look at your stuff. Do you mind if we discuss your submission as an example?
Yeah, 100%.
You don't mind? We're gonna learn from that.
Yeah.
So let's then wait before we start. Otherwise, are you doing well? How's the rest of your responsibilities and everything going? Have you found your rhythm, if I can ask that?
Yeah, yeah. I have eventually, I mean, after that pro pack, it was a little bit hectic trying to get back to schedule, but I'm better now. But I
Okay.
also uh, got a slip disc just before the
Oh
expo.
my goodness.
So I'm still a little bit sore now. My sciatic is getting a little bit of a tingle now. So yeah, it's
Hmm.
just Cara every week now for the next 6 weeks.
Yeah, it's little okay. I had a back spasm last year and I couldn't believe that it took literally 2 weeks of God, you can't walk, you lie down on the
Yeah,
floor crying.
yeah, 100%.
It's one of those things, if you haven't had it, you can't explain it, eh?
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah. But what else can you do? You just got to carry on.
It is what it is, eh? All right. I think we're gonna try and stick to the timelines. I'll jump back to the assignment when we're done. So last week I gave you guys a lot of good tips. I want to ask you, just from a housekeeping perspective, we know submission is coming up for the 28th. You guys are all good with the submission and you know where to submit and all of that. It's on ARC. We know that there's a Turnitin score. You fine with all of that?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I do understand.
Yes, you understand how the story works.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then maybe just one thing is it's always good to submit a bit early. You don't want to, leave it till last and then maybe there's a bottleneck on the servers or whatever. So keep that in mind. I'm going to share your PDF. The question was last week, and I think it was meaningful. When we're sitting in postgrad, we don't have a specific pacer because it is not, and I'm talking to you listening to the recording as well. It's not a content-driven course. We're not here to work through content. There's a lot of self-study where you work and interact. We also said the textbook is a very small part of of what you actually should incorporate in your learning. So we're not dealing with content as in an undergrad course where there's a degree of content that we need to get through and teach you guys about that. You are researching. Then also the on the module page, you will see I've opened a file there where I want to post some interesting articles for you, just extra stuff. I'll post some links to videos there, Brad and others. There's a folder under module information or module content where I say there's some interesting articles. I've loaded up a few articles on social entrepreneurship. We spoke about that earlier on. And then, so you guys can look at that. And then, this is ICE task 2. Remember, I just want to quickly run through the ICE tasks again from a housekeeping perspective. You need 4 ICE marks to get your 10%. Your attempt is what earns you the ICE mark or your participation. Um, we're not going to go to graded ICE per se, where you say, listen, you're not going to get a full ICE mark because you missed out on a good grade. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is I'm not there to penalize any students with ICE. I don't use it as a penalty tool. I actually want to see you guys earning your ICE marks, all of you. I don't want anyone to lose out on that. So remember quickly the mechanism. The idea was participating in class, joining the discussion, the presentation like we did for ICE 1, earns you the mark. If not, you have to do something. There is a possibility for you to do something. At this point, there's 2 ICE tasks that you can see on the module page. ICE task 1 was a presentation where you guys performed, compiled the presentation. We did it in class. I did already load the alternative. So for those of you who missed it in class, there's an alternative to ICE task 1 that you can then do. Please, if you've done the class ICE task, and you will know, you'll remember, don't go and duplicate. You don't have to do anything on the actual module place. Please don't do that, guys. Don't confuse yourself. You're either going to earn the ICE mark in class when you're present. We know it's ICE. This evening is ICE. I will always announce it and make it clear that we are busy with an ICE task. So when you're there, keep your records. And of course, if you're not there, then go and look. What must I do to earn the mark for the session that I've missed? All right, so I think that's clear enough. In order for you to make up your 4 ICE tasks to get your 10%, the catch there is there will be an ICE deadline, so we will keep a very close eye on that. And if it comes to the place where you maybe need to catch up on something on the module page, it needs to be submitted before the closing date. I've got a submission date for ICE to the campus, and I'm not gonna stretch to the very last minute. In other words, if I must submit on the 20th of May, for instance, I'm going to ask you to wrap up ICE on the 18th or the 17th, a day or two prior. So please make sure you don't miss that date, guys, for your ICE task. Okay, so this evening, we had a question from one of the students last week to say, listen, so we went through academic writing tips. Session 5 was a very important session, guys, in terms of assessment support, where I gave you a lot of tips on academic writing. We spoke about research and writing. We spoke about how to tackle an assignment. We spoke about layout, structure, headings. We spoke about how you order and structure your paper. We spoke about referencing style. We spoke about the IIE referencing guide, which is, of course, your absolute guideline. And then I just want to make a note about that, sorry. About the referencing guide. There were some updates, recent updates, which I will post to you. And then we spoke about that, and then the question came from one of the students to say, can we maybe do a sort of a mock answer of one of the assignment questions? I said I would test that. I did, in fact, just run the post, so that's obviously out of the question. We're not allowed to sort of pre-work on real assignments, but I put up something in the form of a small, name it a test, assessment, assignment, giving you guys the opportunity to come back, and we said we will just use that in an informal way. I'm not going to mark it or be too, just to say, listen, let's learn about this. This is something you're doing nice. This is maybe something you must try to avoid. This is something I would like to see more. Change this, do that. And the whole idea was then that you you put your contribution on that discussion section on the module page, and then we can look at that. I think I will often use this as a method for doing ICE, guys. So definitely something we can use. I see Cameron has also posted. I haven't seen Kate's submission, but let's start. Bradley is in. I hope Cameron will join us shortly. There's Cameron. And then we take it from there. Good evening, Cameron. Welcome.
Hi, Doctor. Sorry I'm late.
No, good. No worries. I see your submission also. We're going to start now. I just recapped quickly. You know, also, I think you missed ICE 1 in class, Cameron. So you've seen where you can catch up on that one, right?
Yes, Doc. Thank you.
Okay, that's 100%. I just shared now in class that I'm not going to be out there to catch people out with ICE. I want all of you to earn your 10%, plain and simple. So just don't leave it. Just make sure you do, in fact, use those opportunities. Cameron, Brad, let's start, gents. I'm going to share the submission. So the purpose of this evening is just to look at what you guys, how you tackle those assessments. And I'm going to share now what I believe would be the submission put forward by Brad. Just tell me if you can see it, please. When you can see it, it says ICE task 2.
Yeah, we can see it.
All right. Is it big enough? Do I need to zoom in a bit?
No, it's perfect like that.
It's good. All right. So the question was something along the lines of identify any 3 resources that entrepreneurs need and talk about how that sort of thing is incorporated. All right. So if you treat this like an assignment, you know that, again, we said what you guys are doing in essence is you marry theory with practice. That's what we're doing. We're integrating theory with practice. So you always have to look at what is the practical situation. Is it a problem? Is it a case study? It's a situation, and you now need to go and look for appropriate theory that you can marry with the situation. And now you come and you discuss, or you recommend, or you evaluate, or you critically review, or there's lots of terms that we can use, like in your assignment, and you integrate your theory, and you have to do this in an intelligent way without using those scholarly sources in an incorrect way or an out of context way. Remember that one I discussed with you guys last week, very important. Don't use a scholarly reference out of context. Don't say stuff that the reference doesn't support. Don't make big jumps. Don't make assumptions. Don't manipulate references to come to a point that you want. You are standing outside, guys. You are just the scientific voice putting this together, and you are joining the dots or connecting the dots and putting something forward that is now underpinned by sound academic theory. You see, that's the thing. It's not your opinion. Yes, you are the mind that brings it all together, that brings it in a nice, you remember I said coherent, logical manner, but it's not your ideas. You are bringing it together and you are presenting this as an academic. All right, we understand that. So ICE task 2, so again, we said nice cover page, yes. What I would say from the start here, and Brad, this is not criticizing at all, it's positive criticism. Remember to justify your document. In other words, when the doc is center justified, it means it's like a block, right? So you left and right, you've left justified here, so that's something you can be mindful of. Table of contents is always nice. Don't put a 0 in. We don't put a 0 in. There's not a page 0. So table of contents, cover page normally doesn't have, or when you have in later submissions, when you have those pages before your actual TOC, people like to use those Roman, those Roman numericals for those upfront pages. You guys don't have to use it in this. It's like in your bigger reports. Then there's your table of contents. That's what you call a table of contents with headings, with subheadings, and corresponding page numbers. Remember, it's nice when a page number or a table of contents can take me to where I am. So in other words, if there were 3 things you had to discuss here, it would be nice to maybe put in an introduction and your 3 headings and maybe a conclusion, and then some subheadings to order and guide your reader in terms of what you are busy with. Remember, in your assignment, there's a 3 or a 4 output requirement. So your TOC and a very good, well-ordered, well-structured design of your paper is important. All right, so TOC.
Sorry, Doctor.
Yes.
So I did put a table of contents in initially, but I took it out because I thought it would be more of an essay type submission. Would that change?
We actually touched on this. They say essay, but I'll tell you what, don't treat this like an essay in the typical school essay way we remember.
Okay, yes.
You know, we weren't at school and they said, write an essay about your favorite beach holiday, and you started writing.
Yes,
that's a narrative. Yes. That's a story. It wouldn't really make sense to tell that story with headings and subheadings and structure. But here, to guide your reader, it's a good point. It's absolutely necessary to put in a TOC and structure. And they will say an essay question. This is a short 600 word count max exercise, ne, Brad? But when we get to your assignments, it's maybe 2,000 or 3,000 or a couple of thousand words. So the essay model there wouldn't work at all. You need the structure there.
No.
So even if they tell you guys it's an essay, never treat it like an essay.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Doc.
There's a bit of a bandwidth story. I'm going to put my camera off, guys. I'm going to can the video because I see there's a bit of buffering. Okay, dokes. All right. Then, Brad, the first person, avoid first person use completely. That means the I, you, we. The reason for that is simple. The majority of academic scholars are not too keen on first person use. There are some that sort of tolerates it and some that encourages it. My strategy would be, I want to keep you guys in safe sort of water by saying avoid anything that could potentially upset someone, because you don't know who your external is, you don't know who your moderator is. Me personally don't like the use of first person at all. I hate it. So if I mark something with first person, I'm gonna not like it. It's not gonna put me in a good space. If you want to say play safe, then just avoid first person in all its forms, guys. So it's the I, you, we, all of that. So and then be careful. A sentence like, you can't just pour flour, eggs, and sugar in a pan and hope for the best. It's interesting, but it's not a really academic sentence. So don't remember that hard, cold, clinical, fact-based tone. Nice integration there on with your sources. All right, ingredients. So that before I begin, when you refer to yourself, if you need to, you will refer to yourselves as the, Brad?
I suppose the author, I don't know.
The researcher.
The researcher, yeah.
The researcher. Same happens in your, is it REMI? Is it called REMI, your research module?
Yes,
It's called REMI. So all the time in the REMI module, you will refer to yourself as the researcher. So keep that in mind. That's the way you talk about yourself. And you spoke about QuickTag company. Is that the actual company where you are involved? Is this a real case study?
Yeah. So this is the exact thing from our director's point of view.
It's exactly what you're doing, eh?
Yes.
All right, and now you're talking about resources, financial, personal, and technical resources. Okay, you're talking about QuickTag, and you identified 3 key resources. Finance, always a big one. Personnel, people, stuff, and technical. Good. Those sound absolutely fitting the assignment. Now, how exactly does Nieuwenhuisen and Niemann come into that picture?
So when I was using the textbook,
Yeah.
the 3 that stood out to me as more important, in inverted commas, was financial, personal, and technical. So that's why I said that it's more likely to be implemented. But I just realized now that during the course of this, I actually changed technical resources and I used organizational, and obviously I forgot to change it there.
Okay, you did something else.
Yeah.
The problem I've got with that paragraph is you're talking about QuickTag. Remember, you must look good. You identified the stuff, not these guys. They made some suggestions.
Yeah.
So you want to use them. This is that contextual thing that you must be mindful of. By all means, use these guys to support what you say. You found them, and they came up, or they suggested that these are some important resources, but they don't have anything to do with QuickTag, remember? So that's the example I showed you guys. where you say in QuickTag, the researcher identified, listen to this sentence, the researcher or the director identified 3 key variables, namely, as in accordance with what Nieuwenhuisen and Niemann says. You understand? In other words, you bring it in, but you cannot just tag it on there at the end of the sentence, because now it looks like, did you make the decision or did Nieuwenhuisen make the decision? Nieuwenhuisen and QuickTag doesn't have anything to do with each other. You with?
Yeah.
You with me?
Yeah, 100%.
Contextual referencing. Very important, guys. This is a common mistake. Make sure you bring it in, but yet that you separate your practical case from the author, and that you bring it in. So you say stuff like, it's this aligns with the guidelines offered by Nieuwenhuisen, or this is in accordance, or this is a common, these resources are common areas of interest as postulated by Nieuwenhuisen and Niemann. Now you're making it completely accurate. All right, you've got my story, right?
Yes.
Right, all the first person language there must get out. Another one, guys. How do we write numbers in academic papers? 0 to 10.
In words.
Brad, how would you say?
In words.
Yes, in words from 0 to 10. Above 10, we use the numbers.
Okay.
How do we write percent in academic work? I'm going to put it to you in the chat window. Per space cent. Don't use the symbol. Use the words.
Yeah.
Percent. 2 words. Have you guys seen that? Have you seen that?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Percent. Okay. Personal resource justice fundamental due to my director being extremely committed to his innovation because he saw a gap in the market. All right. Funded his entire operation with his finances. All right. I see a Z there. Brad, utilizing with a Z.
American.
Were you on USA spelling?
I think when I was typing, it must have changed. But I know there was some at the top that I did change. I think I just forgot about this one.
Okay. It's nice. It's a nice learning opportunity. Nothing, no criticism. So Microsoft Word has got a mind of its own, guys. We know that. And you will change something, and then it will another block of text will for some reason jump back. So a good idea is to make sure when you submit that your whole assignment is language edited in South African English. And these Z's is a giveaway. The other one is behavior, color with the OU and the O. Make sure you clean up your work and that you use 100% South African grammar. Don't include your reference list. Why? Because in a title, if there's an American title with an actual Z or a Z in there, you cannot change that to an S, because now you're buggering up the actual title. So don't mess with references, but make sure that your whole submission is in South African English. By the way, your paper is readable, the text, the font, the spacing is lekker. Just be mindful of that central justification.
Yeah.
Your headings, first person. All right, and then you're telling us some stuff here, and you mainly sort of working here and talking about the finances. Okay.
Yes.
In an actual submission, you will only use reference list. By the way, this one, we don't use the Nieuwenhuisen C, we don't use the initials in a reference in text. Do you agree?
Okay.
We only
Doctor,
use
can I
that.
just also ask, is that and correct? What is the rule now with
Yeah,
and?
it was a modification they did. We were not allowed to use and until the beginning of the year.
So is
We
it
had to use
and
that.
it's not the symbol?
We need to use the symbol you're talking about is called the ampersand. And inside a bracket, we always had to use ampersand. And outside a bracket, we could use and. Those were changes. And you guys must please, if you haven't had eyes on that, please make
The only
sure
reason I
that you.
asked Doc is because I'm using ampersand. I'm not actually sure now which is the correct Harvard reference rule.
So there's a couple of changes. There's about 8 changes they made to the IIE referencing guide, Cameron. There's a document floating around as well. Have you had eyes on that? One of them.
I'm gonna have to review it, Doc. I've seen there's a lot of
Yeah.
changes that have been made.
Another thing is there's a comma before the date, which was also, you see in this case, that comma there after the E was also. So, Brad, you probably had eyes on this new document because that's the way you used it, right?
Yeah, exactly that. But I
So,
did
yeah.
double check. If you go down to the references, so you see where it's the full stop and then a comma after the
Correct.
author.
That was a new thing
Yeah.
from this year. In the past, that comma before the date was not there.
Okay, I just want to make sure I did it right.
Then there's Nieuwenhuisen here, but in text it's Nieuwenhuisen and someone else.
Yes.
So there's a problem with your in-text reference. There's a problem with your reference list entry. Do you agree?
Yeah.
You left out one of the authors.
Yes.
That's a serious one. I'm gonna subtract 10%.
Okay.
That's lelik, eh? But it's true. And then we don't put initials in here, just the surnames.
Yeah.
A bibliography means, per definition, those were consulted sources. In your research, you consulted these sources. However, what we use at the IIE is not a bibliography, but a reference list. Please, guys, that's the only thing we call it. We call it a reference list, nothing else. A reference list. And we only list the sources that we used in our text. So in your case, I think you've used, was it 2?
Yeah.
So that would be a reference list of 2.
Mhm.
What's the other thing that you need to keep in mind about reference lists? Another mistake you made? Alphabetical order.
Oh, yeah.
So there's M, Z, there's D's. So there's definitely grounds for me to subtract 10%. Can you see how easily you can lose 10%?
Yeah.
Can you see how you're going to kick yourself for losing 10%? And it's easy to pick up those mistakes. I mean, if you look at this, it looks neat, eh? But those mistakes slip in. So you guys must really check and double check and triple check to make sure that everything is there. Did you learn something from this little exercise, Brad?
Yeah, 100%. Definitely.
Cameron,
Yes, Doc.
can we move on?
Can I just ask something about referencing while we're on the topic? In terms of using new academic sources and them referencing, say, an older academic source, but still in for them to be within their relevant scope. If I pull on that point from them using that source, would I reference the article that I have taken it out of, or would I reference the original author?
No, you always go back to the original authors. Always go back to original authors.
And then it being dated slightly out in terms of years for being credible, would that influence it at all?
Yeah, it would. Because you guys are sitting in such a fast changing discipline. I mean, the world changes fast. 5 years is a long time. look how COVID changed the business world completely, for instance, right? So they say 5 years, sources older than 5 years is going to raise eyebrows. My suggestion there is this: when you find a source like that and it's really something nice and you really want to use it, see if you can look for a more recent source that speaks to the same thing. Because it is going to raise questions if you use older sources. Sometimes it's merited to use an old source. You're referring to a groundbreaking study that was performed in 1969, which really changed something, or it put this on the map. But now you must motivate why this is still, and again, it's because there's a difference of opinion. Maslow, we spoke about Maslow last week. Maslow was done, I think, in the 60s. There's a lot of scholars that says, let's move on, let's forget Maslow, it's old news, the world has changed, Maslow is over and out. There's people that say, no, Maslow is still relevant, and there's lots of work that's being done on Maslow's work and on top of that, and his research was continued. That's all fine, as long as you can motivate. And if you use an older source, you really need to motivate why it's merited or deemed appropriate to use that older source. Did that answer your question?
Yes, Doc.
Don't just gooi in older sources there, because it's going to count against you.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I will make sure that they're merited.
Guys, if they tell you to use a certain number of sources, I think there's a rule there also that says that's the minimum. Say for argument's sake it's 8 or 10. Your prescribed material is not included in that count. So, and remember, that's the minimum. Don't if they say 8, which then means 8 plus 1, please don't feel that you have to stick to the absolute minimum. The more references you can incorporate, the better. So no one's gonna kill you if you use 12 or 15. In fact, that would make a good impression. All right. I'm gonna share. You didn't load a document, Cameron. You loaded.
No, so
you
I
posted.
didn't. Yeah, I
Okay.
posted.
I'm gonna stop this one and go to the actual.
Doc, I'd just like to touch on Turnitin before we end the session, just for preparation. Yes. For submissions.
We should. All right. I'm opening the thread here. All right. So you just posted in text. You opened a thread. All right. There's yours. Can you guys see it?
Yes, Doc.
Okay. Yeah, so this is text. Obviously, we spoke about cover page, DOC. This is nicely justified. So that's that ampersand, that contentious one that we should be careful now of, and it's an and, as per the new updated reference guide. Human capital. All right. You want to emphasize stuff. Don't do that ever in. Don't use any form of emphasis in a normal text submission.
Okay.
Don't ever use any color. Don't ever use capital letters in sentences for anything but names. In other words, you're talking about a construct, competitive advantage, and now you put that in capital letters because you want to put some sort of an emphasis on that. Don't do that. You can only use capital letters for names. And then even this, I understand that you want to emphasize it, but don't do it. You won't see an academic text like that. So that's good. Don't do that. There's the ampersand again. So you spoke about human capital, financial and digital resources. And it looks nice. It looks neat. You're talking about some of the stuff here that your scholar tells you. Something else to keep in mind here, which I'm going to use your paper to point out. I also saw a Z somewhere. There's the Z. Make sure you're in South African language. Then I want you guys to balance the use of references. Remember in my session last week, where you sometimes put it at the end and sometimes you put it in the actual part of your sentence, where you will balance the use of incorporating references with those two methods. So in some cases, you put it at the end here in the bracket, and in some cases, you will say, Nieuwenhuisen and Celepes date in brackets, postulate this and that. All right, good on that one. It's just a nice way to do it. It's a good way to balance out your referencing, because you put all of them at the end, right?
That's correct.
Then, is this your textbook, the Nieuwenhuisen one?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, that's your prescribed material. What about italicizing the title?
Yeah, I see that now as well.
You see it? What's the story now with brackets? Do we use brackets?
I'm not sure, sir. I actually have to really find that paper just to clue myself up. I'm still using old referencing guides in my head.
Okay, the one thing that you cannot do is to use an ampersand in a reference list entry. Don't put a what's that called, a semicolon or a colon there. Yeah. It's not supposed to be there. That ampersand, even in the old days, before we changed to the new format, you never used an ampersand in a reference list. So that's at least 5% off for you as well, Brad. That's lelik, eh?
Yeah, it's bad.
For reference style. There's capitalize, it's English. Now, a sentence like this: entrepreneurs who do this effectively are positioned to overcome challenges, capitalize on opportunities, and achieve sustainable growth. Is that a direct thing that comes from the book? That these
no, so I'm actually making a statement. I should actually be third person, I see, as well. So that's too broad of a statement.
So whose voice is that? Is that your voice or Nieuwenhuisen's?
No, it's mine.
But you're also accrediting that to Nieuwenhuisen.
I see so.
So Nieuwenhuisen picks up this thing on an academic database. And Nieuwenhuisen goes into your paper and says, that's interesting. There's a student in the IIE that referenced me, but I didn't make that statement. And they send us a mail and they say, your students are referencing, they are citing me incorrectly. Can you see the seriousness of this?
Yes, yes.
You can say something like your thoughts, and then you say this correlates to guidelines offered by Nieuwenhuisen. Can you see you now separating, but you are using. You're separating, but you're using. You're not accrediting the scholars for your thoughts or your sentence, but you are bringing it in. Very important. Guys, I think that's good. So be mindful. Hey, it's difficult. Academic writing is not easy. It's something where there's a massive curve. There is a growth curve. You will see how you will absolutely make you will grow. When you say something like this, first sentence, entrepreneurial resources required for venture success include human capital, resources, digital resources, that sentence. And then you say it actually looks at growth, innovation, and sustainability. There's no reference for that. Can you make such a bold statement? Can you make such a blanket statement without a ref?
No, I can't.
Do you agree? Can you see that's risky, because that sounds like, is it your opinion or is it an academic statement? If it is your opinion, then it's wrong. If it is an academic statement, then why isn't it referenced? Did you think of that? Did you find it somewhere? You hear what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Guys, you cannot put in any stuff here that is not supported. unsubstantiated. Remember the three things I told you? Integrate, motivate, substantiate. Integrate theory with practice, cleverly, sensibly, in context. Motivate, if you say stuff, motivate why do you say that? And substantiate wherever you can. Substantiate what you say. Now you tell me, listen, man, this is common sense. Everyone knows that. Leadership, good leadership leads to good employee engagement. Can we say that? Even though we all know it's true. We can't. Not in an academic paper. We can't. It sounds silly because, you know, it's common sense and everyone you ask will tell you the truth, but you cannot say that. Now you're going to look for a study and you see, aha, there's a study done by McKinsey, and they found in their study that leadership is strongly positively correlated to employee engagement. And now you can use that. Now you say that little common sense, stupid thingy that you think is, because now you say it, it's credible because it's not an opinion. It is earthed, it's grounded in academic literature. Now you can say leadership is correlated with positive employee engagement as postulated by McKinsey in a study performed in whatever. That's how academic writing works, guys. Let's see if Kate has put something. Thanks a lot for this. And thanks for being open to review. Let me see if I see Kate's submission. I don't. All right, it's only the two of you, gents. Any questions?
How's it, Doc?
No. Okay. Yes.
It's not a question about AskTask 2, but AskTask 1 or any other AskTask. When do we get our marks back? Do we get our marks back?
For ICE?
Yes.
No, if you did the ICE, you got the full mark.
Okay. Okay.
Remember, they changed it from graded to attempt.
Okay, I see.
So listen carefully. In the old days, there were some graded tasks and there were some participation tasks.
Yes.
Right? So with graded ICE, you could actually get a 70 for the ICE, which means, look, if there's 4 ICE tasks, it means there's 2.5% for each of them to get to your 10%. But in the old days, when they graded ICE, it meant that you could actually do 4 ICE tasks, but you could get less than 10% because of the grade. They changed that and said, if there's an attempt from you, you get the full mark. So what does that mean in reality? That means if I ask you to post a 600-word essay and you write 1 word there, then that's an attempt. You earn the mark. Would you feel good living with yourself doing that? No, you wouldn't. So please don't do that. Give it your best as if it is graded. So no, that's the story. If you've done your ICE, you've got the full mark for that specific task.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Doc.
Right, I'm quickly going to look at the assessment again. I don't think there was anything funny. All right, so that's
I've got 2 questions as well.
Yes. Oh, okay.
In relation just to this assignment as well, can you just touch on the infograph? I do see it in the assignment. They say that we must clarify it with you. I'm just looking for maybe some scope or what you're looking for in terms of the actual, let's say, image.
Where does that
I think
come
it's
in?
I think it's 1.3. So
1.3.
Or sorry, C. I might be thinking of another assignment.
What is an infographic?
Yes, just in terms of like, what are you looking for? What should we be incorporating for the general infographic? So
I'm going to leave that to you. You're a researcher, so wrestle with it and give me what you can.
I was just looking for scope, but cool.
That's a good answer, eh?
Thanks, Doc.
Here's the 5 and 10% deductions, guys. Minor errors 5, major 10. What we said about last time was stick to all these things. Look at your mark allocation. That's quite even. Look at what they say here. 8 credible references. Your prescribed material is not counting. Make sure you address all the outcomes. There's about 4 of them. And then there's one for a general conclusion and the structure of your work. So yeah, please don't treat it like an essay. Look at the rubric points, look at the keys, the clues they give you there. Very important. I mean, look here. For that infographic, they say it's compelling, it's informative. You're using all 4 P's. It provides a clear and convincing explanation. So obviously, when we mark, we use the rubric, and that's all we use. We don't use anything else. I don't sit and mark using my own ideas. I look at this rubric. There's 4 blocks here. There's a range of 4 blocks. And I will decide this answer of yours, where does it fall? Where do I see this falling into a block? Do you fall into this block? And then there's obviously that scope, that range of about 4 marks, 4 or 5 marks. Do you fall in this block? Do you fall in that block? And then I'll assign a mark. And again, guys, remember your marks are moderated. So rest assured, the mark you get is the mark you deserve. Don't worry about that. But the rubric is nice. They put a lot of effort into the rubrics for 2 reasons. The first reason being that the student knows there's a lot of detail here. And the second reason is that marking is done consistently. So at all campuses, across all the modules, that marking by different lecturers and different markers is consistent. You're asking me for stuff. I'm gonna, like I told you guys at the beginning, I'm gonna open the gate wide for you. I'm open to that. I'm not gonna put you in a narrow tunnel. Use your creativity and your own style to do that, and I'm gonna assess what you give me. Turnitin. Okay, so we're starting to see some of the assignments coming in with Turnitin. So we've always had SafeAssign, Turnitin at some other institutions I was. The first thing I want to tell you guys is Turnitin might skew stuff. It's possible. We've had some examples where AI figures are high, where it doesn't seem like a real issue. I'm not saying it's gonna false flag stuff. There might be funny stuff, but we look at the actual what's happening there. Remember, same with similarities, guys, and I want you to submit with very low figures, even single digit similarity scores. The 25% benchmark is way too high for a post-grad student. End of story. If you submit on a similarity of 25-30%, that's not good. So if you can submit on single digits below 10, you are more in the sort of ballpark where I want my postgrads to be. So similarity is there. We know that we can break it up. I don't know if you can also have that view where you can see how the percentages make up. Can you go into that report? Is there such a report for you, as in SafeAssign, where you can see?
That's what I also want to know, Docs, because the link that we submit on is just a click link, and it takes us to a drop-in submission add file and then drop it in. Where previously with SafeAssign, we'd have to first run it through SafeAssign and then get our mark back. Yeah.
I haven't seen it. I haven't had any assignments on it, so I'm not sure what the report looks like. But the thing is, as with SafeAssign, we're not going to just look at the figure. We're going to go into and see what's the story, because I mean we know historically that it did have the tendency sometimes to flag headings, to flag references. So always a quick look from the lecturer, listen, what is going on here? Is it a real issue or is it not a real issue? Then there's a whole story about, do you submit early? Do you submit a bit later? Then there's students that submit and they say, I'm going to submit again to try and get in with a lower score. And I'm going to submit a third time. I don't know how many times you can submit to get my score lower. I had a student the other day who sat on Turnitin, who sat on like a 60 or something, or like very high, 50. And she submitted again and she came to a very low score, like 9 or something. I'm not sure what she did, but there's ways to do that. I can't tell you exactly how it works. But this is a small pool of submissions, so I'm not sure how the similarities will work. But if you do stuff right, it's going to be fine. I mean, if we've got stuff that is flagged as AI, now AI is a different monster, and it says that this is AI work, maybe you paraphrased in a way that it's detected as AI. We will see. Time will tell. I think if you honestly and transparently interact with the material, here's the point. Make it your own work. Use it, you type. It's not a copy and paste exercise, guys. It's a typing up your own work, word for word. You are responsible for every word in that submission. From the very first to the very last word where you put your full stop, that's your work. And the advice is simply this. If you can get into that, where you absolutely type up, you do the own work, you don't copy and paste, you paraphrase, and you can't copy something and then just change a word or two and think now it's going to slip past. It will pick it up. Paraphrase means you must completely change the text from the way that you saw it. You can put it in your own words. Changing a word or two is not gonna get it through the system. So be careful. Let's see what we see. Again, we're not going to penalize students, but we are taking it very seriously. Plagiarism, again, if that's detected, I stop marking your work immediately. I refer it, and then I'll keep an eye on the similarity score. I'll keep an eye on the AI score. Remember, my advice to you is AI is such a slippery slope now. Just avoid AI. Don't do it.
So, Jock, just to clarify, it's just that one link that we're using to submit. There's no Turnitin specific place that you first submit through.
I really don't know. You mean that where you can self-run it?
Yeah,
through?
because I remember when we used to submit with what was it, Blackboard, we used to first put it in through Turnitin and then make a submission in a separate link. Obviously, returning now to VC, I'm seeing it's just one like add file and submit. So that's why I'm just trying to clarify if it will go through Turnitin like that.
Okay, but if you submit once and you get a score, what stops you
I suppose
from...
time will tell how the submission needs to be done.
Was that then a non... Do I understand you correctly? In SafeAssign, you had a non-official test run submission.
Yeah, you could put it in, and then they also gave you like 2 different submissions for your actual submission in terms of if you miss upload.
Once you onto the real live link.
Yeah.
So you had a test link to get an idea of what your score was. You could play around there, and then when you submit it for real, you even had a chance or two.
Yes, I see that also they're saying as well that submissions are unlimited. They actually state that in the submission link.
Okay, on the current one.
Yes, sir.
So you sort of then almost treat that like a test, right?
Okay, cool.
Would that make sense?
Yes.
The protocol or the convention is that I mark the last dated submission that was submitted on time. So if there's a cutoff time of 12 o'clock, for instance, and there's 6 submissions and one of them was at 1 o'clock in the morning, even though that would be the last one, it fell after the submission deadline. So I would mark the one, you know, the latest valid one before the closing date. That's how that would work. All right, so I don't see Kate's submission here. We're not gonna look at that. She's not with us anyways. But that's the story, folks. And then I'll ask that question, Cameron. Let me run that by someone tomorrow as
Awesome.
well, and
Yeah,
just get back to you on
Good.
if the, you know, if there was a that little test ground for you guys. I think they called it something.
Thanks, Doc.
Sandbox or something, yeah, where you could play around before you submit. All right, guys, anything else? Any questions you want to ask? All happy?
Yeah, happy, Doc. Thanks for the
All good.
pointers.
Yeah, I found it very, very useful. Thanks for allowing us to look at your stuff. I hope you guys learned a lot from this evening. I'll put this recording up on my YouTube channel as the rest. You guys all have access to the channel, and
Yes, Doc.
you're
Yes.
good with that.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I'm gonna greet you. Wish you well. Take care, and remember to submit on what's it, Friday.
Yeah, Friday.
Okay, folks. I'll see you. I think next week we'll probably do something. We're gonna prepare a bit something for us again, but I'll notify you. Keep an eye on the announcements. You get the announcements, and all of that works well.
Yeah.
It does. And Bradley, thanks again for your forwarding responsibility for the WhatsApp group. It is very handy, and it's just a nice logistical tool. Thanks,
Yeah.
guys. Take care.
Cheers.
Doc, if we can maybe touch on next week, just the group assignment as well, just to get the ball rolling. I know time is running out and exams are coming up.
Yes, and the group assignment will be on 29th of April, so that's a month from now. Yes, we can. We can
Awesome.
do that. And then, guys, I will spend one of the sessions where I'm going to give you feedback. You can decide if you want me to give the feedback in the group. If you're not comfortable, I'll give you your feedback individually. We can just, you know, do a one-on-one. But I'll give you specific feedback on your submission to guide you a bit. You're not doing a second individual like some of the modules in the honors class have. So there's only that one submission, but obviously you can incorporate the feedback in your future writing. All right. Speak to you,
Perfect.
folks.
Thanks,
Keep
Doc.
well.
Have a good day.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.